Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Pakistan heads for a hung National Assembly. Both ex-Prime Ministers Imran Khan and Nawaz Sharif claim poll win. US, UK, EU urge probe into elections, express concerns. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel developing dual plan to evacuate Rafah civilians and defeat Hamas. UN says do not want forced displacement. India's External Affairs Minister discusses ties with Australian counterpart on day 2 of the 7th Indian Ocean Conference. Leaders share views on Indian Ocean architecture and interests in Indo-Pacific. Cocoa market in panic as prices hit record high for the 9th straight day. El Nino and climate change in the world's main producing countries in West Africa affect the harvest.
Our oceans, our water, our food, our fields, there is so much around us that is polluted. So almost all of us actively contribute to polluting our planet. The textile industry across the world is water intensive, and that is a major problem.
Conventional dyeing and printing is water intensive.
The most dangerous type of waste in the world, I'd certainly think of nuclear waste. These power plants also generate radioactive waste.
That we need to take care of the wastes, not to leave them to the future generations.
A single one to a certain extent for sure, but when it's the millions of these across the globe everywhere, then they become very dangerous for the planet. Recycling, management and segregation is a major problem.
We should take these small measures to keep this earth and environment clean and healthy.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots on DD India. Is China's economy a ticking time bomb? China, once a growth powerhouse, is becoming a concern for global economy. I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Our oceans, our water, our food, our fields, there is so much around us that is polluted. So almost all of us actively contribute to polluting our planet. The textile industry across the world is water intensive, and that is a major problem.
Conventional dyeing and printing is water intensive.
The most dangerous type of waste in the world, I'd certainly think of nuclear waste. These power plants also generate radioactive waste.
That we need to take care of the wastes, not to leave them to the future generations.
A single one to a certain extent for sure, but when it's the millions of these across the globe everywhere, then they become very dangerous for the planet. Recycling, management and segregation is a major...
Let's get you updates from Pakistan first. Pakistan faces days of political horse trading after the election results released early on Saturday showed no clear majority. With independent candidates mostly backed by jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's PTI winning 92 seats and no party securing a majority, Pakistan seemed poised for a hung parliament. To form a government, 133 seats in the National Assembly are needed. Leaving no stone unturned is also former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who has urged all parties to form a unity government to stabilize Pakistan.
आज हमें जो मैंडेट मिला है, जरूरी है कि दूसरी पार्टियां बैठकर मिलकर एक हुकूमत कायम करें और पाकिस्तान को इस भंवर से निकालें.
Amid the Election Commission of Pakistan drawing flack over the delay in declaration of the results of general elections, former Prime Minister and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI founder Imran Khan released a victory speech in his AI-enabled voice, saying that Nawaz Sharif failed with the massive turnout of voters on the polling day.
Pakistanis, yesterday you laid the foundation for Hakiki Azadi, true freedom, with your votes. I congratulate each and every one of you for winning the 2024 election. I had complete faith in you that you would come out and vote. Now, nothing can hinder our progress. Despite 2 years of injustice and atrocities, we have won the 2024 election with a 2/3 majority. Everyone has witnessed the power of your vote.
Amidst the turmoil, the United States, Britain and the European Union on Friday separately expressed concerns about Pakistan's electoral process and urged a probe into reported irregularities. The US and the EU both mentioned allegations of interference, including arrests of activists, and added that claims of irregularities, interference and fraud should be fully investigated. While the EU statement noted a lack of level playing field, attributing that to the inability of some political actors to contest the elections and to restrictions to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression and internet access. The EU, the US and Britain said that they would work with the next government and did not congratulate any candidate or party. DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us with more. Amrit, good morning. Now, we've seen that more than 90 independents winning under, in fact, most of them backed by ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan, and also at the same time Nawaz Sharif calling for a unity government in the country. How do we expect the events to further unfold?
Well, it is clear that it's a hung parliament there. No particular party has been able to secure even a simple majority, despite both sides claiming victory. Nawaz Sharif saying that he's the single largest party, which is a blatant lie. The fact is that these independents are PTI. They are not backed by PTI. They are PTI. The only fact is that because they did not get the electoral symbol of the bat, so they had to contest as independents. But for all practical purposes, they are the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Imran Khan is lying too when he says that he's got 2/3 secured, 2/3 of the majority. No, he hasn't secured even a simple majority there. All parties have fallen short of that. Now, the real challenges of forming a government begin. Nawaz Sharif, who was hung up till yesterday saying that he will not form a coalition with anyone, has today tasked his brother and the PMLN chief, Shahbaz Sharif, to reach out to the allies, primarily the PPP, and some other independents where horse trading would begin, because according to Pakistan's constitution, independents can join any party after they become MPs. So all that would be going on. And even if Nawaz is able to form the government, which looks to the scenario most likely because he has the support of the deep establishment of the deep state, it will be a very slippery slope for him. He'll be a very, very weak prime minister, with the all-powerful army having overriding say in how he runs the affairs of his country and his affairs with those outside the country or foreign powers. So clearly it is a situation which has thrown up a very divided polity. because of the fractured mandate that has been thrown up by the people of Pakistan. Preeti.
All right, Amrit, now this role of army has also been referred to in the past, and also when we talk of the expectations from these elections, there were not many, owing to the, to the responsibilities of a stable and an honest governance. First of all, what options do these present candidates or parties have in hand from here on? And secondly, for the new government, what would be the challenges?
Well, first, what are the present challenges? As I said, the present challenge is to form a stable government. Even if they are able to cobble up a coalition, if you stack up the numbers of both the PMLN and the People's Party, it doesn't get past the 133 halfway mark. So they will have to, get some of these independents, either those of the PTI or the PTI, or the other independents. There are about 19, 20 of them who are non-PTI independent candidates. So that is one. The other is that now what would be the challenges? The challenges is governance. Pakistan is facing a poly-crisis, economic crisis, the political crisis, the security crisis. It is battling with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and many other tanzeems, Baloch tanzeems, who are separatist tanzeems. So it has to deal with that. It has to negotiate with the IMF. Inflation is skyrocketing. Prices of food are out of reach of majority of the Pakistanis. There is a huge crisis of fuel. There is a crisis of electricity in that country. Jobs are at an all-time low. So there is rationing happening all over Pakistan. The situation of power is that there are power outages in big cities like Lahore and Karachi. So, these are the challenges that they have to face. And then, of course, the relationship with the West, which is critical of how the elections and the electoral process transpired there. It is critical of the role the army played, or allegations of fraud and rigging, etc. The crackdown on media.
Right.
Its relations with neighboring countries, including Afghanistan and Iran. And then, of course, India as well. Preeti.
All right, Amrit, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. So that was our correspondent Amrit Pal Singh spelling out more on the Pakistan electoral process. We will have to see how the events further unfold there. Let's shift focus now. Israeli military is coming out with a plan that would not only defeat Hamas, but would also help in evacuating civilians in Gaza. Now, security establishment in Israel is asked to submit to the cabinet a combined plan for evacuating the population and destroying the battalions. Over 1 million Palestinians have sought refuge in the city near the Egyptian border, prompting escalating tensions in the region. The development has prompted concern from the US. DD India's Sally Patterson tells us more.
In a televised address, US President Joe Biden says Israel's actions in Gaza had been over the top. He said, quote, "A lot of innocent people are in trouble and they're dying, and it's got to stop." The president's comments are being seen as his sharpest criticism so far of Israel since the war broke out. Separately, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the United States would not support a major Israeli military operation in Rafah under current conditions. Just hours later, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he ordered the military to prepare a plan to evacuate civilians from Rafah ahead of an expected Israeli invasion. Israel says that after more than 4 months of war, the city is the last remaining Hamas stronghold in Gaza. Figures released by the Strip's health ministry on Friday show at least 27,000 people have been killed in Gaza since fighting began on October 7th. Meanwhile, families of hostages still being held in Gaza are demanding the release of their loved ones as the fighting rages on. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
We're heading for a short break. You're watching DD India News Hour, but after the break, an oil leak in Mexico leads to a hazardous spill of gases in the atmosphere, prompting evacuation of over 2,000 people. Massive destruction caused by volcanic eruption in Iceland leads to closure of public institutions. Also, stay with us as we take you through the world of fashion and glamour at the New York Fashion Week.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get to updates from Russia-Ukraine conflict now. A Russian drone strike hit Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv late night on Friday. A fire broke out at a petrol station due to the strike that also damaged civilian infrastructure. As per the local officials, at least one person was injured in the incident and the toll is likely to increase. Ukraine's Sumy region was also hit by Russian shelling with guided aerial bomb. Ukraine's emergency services released a video showing rescuers pulling survivors out from the rubble. In an unverifiable video, 3 civilians were killed while 4 civilians were rescued. US President Joe Biden and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met at the White House amidst efforts to secure support for Ukraine. As European governments express mounting concern over the delay in US lawmakers approving new aid for Kyiv's battle against Russia, DD India's Nick Harper presents more insights from Washington.
Well, plenty for the two leaders to discuss here in Washington, D.C. The war in Ukraine, efforts to strengthen the NATO alliance and the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. It was the 6th time that these two men have met as the leaders of their countries, and much of the discussions this Friday revolved around Ukraine and its impact on NATO. Because the US Senate this week failed to pass a bill that would have provided around $60 billion in aid to Ukraine. Republicans in the House of Representatives, who would have voted on the proposal next, had already signalled that they were going to stand in opposition to this bill. So it means that new military assistance and financial aid to Kiev remains in limbo, and that is worrying many US allies in Europe. Now, the two leaders didn't hold a press conference, but before they got into their discussions, they said very much that they hoped that Republicans would be able to stop their opposition to funding new assistance to Kiev.
Congress, we have to pass a national security spending package now. Our House members are being somewhat reluctant. Hopefully it's more politics than real, but including funding for Ukraine and to help them continue to defend themselves against the brutal aggression of Russia.
Germany's now the second largest provider of money to Ukraine after the United States. And earlier on Friday, Scholz met with US senators, after which he said that he was confident that a decision on further military aid for Ukraine would be made soon.
Germany was ready to increase its support with weapon delivery. And hopefully the Congress, the House will follow you and make a decision on giving the necessary support, because without the support of the United States and without the support of the European states, Ukraine will have not a chance to defend its own country.
However, there are also lingering concerns about the US's relationship with NATO if Biden does not win a second term in November's presidential election. Former President Donald Trump, Biden's likely challenger, has threatened to withdraw military and financial aid to Ukraine in its fight against Russia, and he's also questioned whether the US should even be part of the Western military alliance. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
A bipartisan delegation of US Congress members called on Ukraine's president in Kyiv on Friday. The US delegation vowed to do their part to get crucial stalled military aid legislation through the House of Representatives. The US has been Ukraine's largest supplier of military assistance, but that help is now on hold while Congress wrangles over a bill providing aid to Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan.
Thank you very much for coming.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump secured a landslide victory in the Nevada Republican Party's caucus, claiming 99% of the vote and all of the state's delegates. Now, this win further solidifies his lead in the race for the presidential nominee, with his closest competitor, Nikki Haley, not even present on the ballot. This significant triumph reflects Trump's dominance within the party. DD India's correspondent Benji Haya reports for more.
Look, whilst Nevada will be hotly contested in the November presidential election, this result was a foregone conclusion. The only other person facing off against Donald Trump was Pastor Ryan Binkley, Trump's closest serious challenger. Former United Nations ambassador and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley had opted not to take part in the Nevada caucus, claiming it had been rigged for Trump. She appeared in the primary vote earlier this week instead, amid a dispute between the political parties in the state. But she lost in that primary anyway, embarrassingly beaten by the none of these candidates option. Pledging to prevent what she calls a coronation, Haley's vowed to continue competing, despite coming second to Trump in votes in Iowa and New Hampshire, outcomes which set him on course to becoming the Republican Party's presumptive nominee for the presidency. Her last shot at turning things around comes next month in South Carolina, in her home state's primary, where again Trump leads in the polls. The embattled former president still remains the favourite to take on Democrat incumbent Joe Biden for the White House, even as Mr. Trump faces multiple criminal trials for his alleged mishandling of classified documents and attempts to overturn the 2020 election. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges, framing his prosecutions as political persecution by his opponents. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Friday said that he should have been treated the same way as President Joe Biden when it comes to possession of classified documents. This comes a day after U.S. Special Counsel said in a report that President Biden mishandled classified documents but will face no criminal charges. Addressing his supporters in Pennsylvania, we show you what exactly Trump said. Let's listen in.
If Biden is not going to be charged, he said, that's up to them. You know, look, if he's not going to be charged, that's up to them. But then I should not be charged. This is nothing more than selective persecution of Biden's political opponent, me. And I don't know that it's Biden, because I don't think he knows he's alive.
The report from Special Counsel Robert Hur, a former U.S. attorney in Maryland, has prompted an election year brawl and renewed questions about Biden's advanced age. This week, 81-year-old Biden mixed up the names of several world leaders. Hur said in a report released on Thursday that he chose not to bring criminal charges following a 15-month investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents because the president cooperated. A state-run oil company in Mexico suffered a leak, causing a fuel stream up to 15 meters and accumulation of gases in the atmosphere on Friday. The leak was blocked later, but no cause of the leak was reported. Over 2,000 people were evacuated. However, no victims were reported. Iceland's volcanic eruption left a trail of damage to the region on Friday. Pipelines which supply hot water were also cut as lava hit the pipes. Schools, kindergartens, museums and other public institutions in the region were closed. About 15 million cubic meters of molten rock had flowed from the ground in the first 7 hours of the eruption, according to the Icelandic Meteorological Office. However, the eruption, which began on Thursday, appears to have ended. It is one of the most iconic landmarks in the world, and it's just gotten easier for Indians to visit. The Eiffel Tower is now accepting UPI to purchase tickets. And as Tony Waterman reports, France may be the first country in Europe to use Indian government's mobile payment platform, but it's unlikely to be the last.
Every year, roughly 300,000 Indian nationals visit France, and topping their must-see list is this. the Eiffel Tower. Indians are the second largest group of visitors to the iconic Paris landmark, and for the very first time, they can now buy their tickets using rupee. The National Payments Corporation of India's international arm has partnered with French e-commerce payments platform Lyra to make the transactions seamless. Users simply use their UPI-powered apps to scan a QR code initiating the payment, and then use their tickets at the Eiffel Tower.
It's very simple and very transparent. When you pay with a card, you never know what is the change rate, what is the commission, and how much you're gonna pay. Here, it's completely transparent because when you pay, you know exactly how much rupee will be deducted on your account.
With over 380 million users, UPI is widely accepted in India. There were more than 12 billion transactions last month alone, but the mobile payment platform is still trying to make inroads abroad. The plan, the companies say, is to start rolling it out to retail shops and restaurants across Paris before a broader push across the continent and beyond. It's part of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's goal of internationalizing the rupee and exporting Indian technology. On social media, he said that the partnership marks a significant step towards taking UPI global. And starting with the Eiffel Tower is certainly one way to get noticed. Tony Waterman in Paris, France, reporting for DD India.
Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. A plane missing a tire lands successfully in a busy Brazil airport. The plane, which departed from Rio de Janeiro's airport with the destination to Sao Paulo's Congonhas, has diverted after the inboard and outboard left main wheels were unspotted. The landing was a safe one, and the pilots drove the aircraft onto the runway, flanked by emergency vehicles. A 4-man crew, including Turkey's first astronaut, returned to Earth after a 2-week visit to the International Space Station. The space mission, arranged entirely by a commercial expense by Texas-based startup Axiom Space. The spacecraft carrying the Axiom Mission 3 crew landed at sea near Florida and was then dragged to a recovery vessel where the team were assisted out of the capsule. The Anheuser-Busch Brewing Company hitched its famous Budweiser Clydesdale horses to a carriage for a march around Las Vegas, wowing crowds 2 days before the Super Bowl. The horses, which stand 6 feet tall at the shoulder, participated in the ceremony. For decades, the horses have been a mainstay in Budweiser commercials running during the Super Bowl. Elton John is downsizing, and the superstar's former penthouse residence in Atlanta has been emptied for a series of auctions in New York. The items are expected to bring in an estimated $10 million. The series of over 3 live auctions and 6 online auctions of over 950 items to begin on February 21st. Carnivals dazzle up Rio de Janeiro's famed Sambadrome parade as hundreds of revelers took to the streets, with partygoers dressed up in bright costumes to celebrate the carnival. The Rio de Janeiro Carnival 2024 will run until February 12th. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, the 11th World Government Summit to be held in Dubai from 12th to 14th Feb. India to participate as guest of honor at the summit. It's a treat for book lovers. World Book Fair to begin in New Delhi with the theme Multilingual India, a Living Tradition. The Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve records a whopping influx of tourists since October.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook of the top stories once again. Pakistan heads for a hung National Assembly. Both ex-Prime Ministers Imran Khan and Nawaz Sharif claim poll win. US, UK and EU urge probe into elections, express concerns. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel developing dual plan to evacuate Rafah civilians and defeat Hamas. UN says do not want forced displacement. India's External Affairs Minister discusses ties with Australian counterpart on day 2 of the 7th Indian Ocean Conference. And cocoa market in panic as prices hit record high for the 9th straight day. El Nino and climate change in the world's main producing countries in West Africa affect the harvest. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar started day 2 of the 7th Indian Ocean Conference with a discussion with his Australian counterpart. He attended a fireside chat with his friend Penny Wong. Leaders discussed the ties between the two countries, Indian Ocean architecture, and also shared interests in the Indo-Pacific.
In history, people from the Pacific Islands who would actually probably the greatest navigators of their times, who would come deep into the Indian Ocean. You know, there are communities in Madagascar, Arabs who sailed from the Gulf to China. You had Indians. I mean, if you look at Indian cultural footprint, both sides, I mean, all the way to East Africa on the one side, Southeast Africa, to the Fujian coast in China.
He also lauded the relations between India, Australia, US and Japan.
This is an Indian perspective. It also reflects three very important relationships with Australia, with the US, with Japan, which have transformed after the end of the Cold War. So if you look at the big picture change and then these three key relationships, three bilateral relationships changing, then they kind of come together today to really create the plot.
Post-discussion with his counterpart Penny Wong, Dr. S. Jaishankar visited Selaini Avenue in Perth. The avenue is named after Nain Singh Selaini, an Indian origin soldier honoured in Australia. The minister also met some of the Indian veterans and community leaders there. On the sidelines of the 7th Indian Ocean Conference in Perth, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held meetings with his counterparts from the attending countries. He also started Friday with a meeting with Madagascar counterpart. The two leaders discussed the bilateral relations that we hope to deepen. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also called on Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The two leaders recognized the progress in the bilateral cooperation and resolved to continue deepening them. The minister also held a good conversation with his Singaporean counterpart, Vivian Balakrishnan. The leaders noted the progress in the strategic partnership between the two countries and exchanged views on regional and global issues. Earlier, ahead of the conference in Perth, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met with his Australian counterpart Penny Wong. Both the leaders had a good exchange on comprehensive strategic partnership and convergence on matters related to the Indian Ocean. They also discussed the Indo-Pacific, situation in West Asia and other regional and global topics. Today is the last day of the budget session of Indian Parliament. The lower house of Parliament will have discussion on the Ram Temple and Pran Pratishta, or the consecration ceremony of Lord Ram. Whereas two brief discussions are listed for the upper house. The upper house will discuss white paper on the Indian economy, which was laid on the table of the house yesterday. Also in the day, there will be discussion on the historical construction and consecration of Ram Temple in upper house as well. DD India correspondent Vikas Sarthi is joining us for more. Vikas, good morning. Now, we've just given a broad outline of what all will be taken up today on the last day of the budget session in both the Houses of Parliament. Let us get an overall view, an overall analysis and evaluation from you on how was the budget session fared this time around.
Right, Preeti. So not only this is the last day of the budget session, but in fact it's the last day of 17th Lok Sabha. Now new members will be elected after the general election. So it is going to be an important day for all member of parliaments, and we may see some kind of a formal farewell to each other. And before that, there is a discussion on construction of Ram Temple and Pran Pratishtha of Shri Ram Lala in Ayodhya. This discussion will take place in both the houses, but in the Rajya Sabha, as you just mentioned that earlier, that first there will be a discussion on the white paper which was brought by Finance Minister on the state of economy during UPA regime. Yesterday we saw Finance Minister spoke at length about the status of the economy during the UPA 10-year regime and the NDA 10-year regime. So that will be the discussion today in the Rajya Sabha. But as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned, there is only one legislative work it has been listed for today, and it is the discussion under Rule 193. So all members will present their view on this historic event of construction of Ram Temple, and after that we may see that speak.
All right, I think we've lost contact there with Vikas Harthi. We'll try getting back to him again. Meanwhile, let's get to other updates. Sri Lankan Member of Parliament Namal Rajapaksa visited Ayodhya Ram Temple on Friday, and he said that he felt honoured and blessed to have visited the temple. He also emphasised on Prime Minister Modi's involvement in raising of Ram Temple, calling it a great thing.
Well, it's a great thing that the Prime Minister himself has got involved and done, and we believe it has got back to his old glory, and I'm sure there will be many devotees from all over the world who are waiting to visit and get blessings from this place. We are glad to be here, and we are honored to get blessings from Ram Temple, especially being a Sri Lankan connected to Ramayana trail and growing up in a very Buddhist cultured background, family background, and also being very close to the Hindu community.
Earlier, Fiji Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Biman Prasad visited North Indian city of Ayodhya, becoming the first foreign leader to visit Ram Mandir. DD India's Ramesh Ramachandran had an exclusive conversation with Biman Prasad, where he lauded India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his leadership.
Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Biman Prasad has lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. In an exclusive interview with DD India's Ramesh Ramachandran, Biman Prasad said that India is the fastest growing nation in terms of economic growth.
Since Prime Minister Modi ji visited Fiji in 2014 and the subsequent holding of the India-Pacific Summit in Fiji, then the second one was in Jaipur and the third one was in Papua New Guinea. And I think India's global leadership as part of the Indo-Pacific strategy, the Quad group, and globally, and India's progress, economic progress. The fast economic growth that we see, India is probably the leading country in terms of economic growth.
During his visit to India, Biman Prasad also visited newly built Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Prasad led a high-level Fiji delegation to Ayodhya. Prasad is the first foreign dignitary who paid his obeisance at Ram Mandir.
When one talks about Ayodhya, it immediately invokes the great feeling, the recital of the epic Ramayana, where Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya. And Diwali is a national holiday in Fiji. So it does invoke a lot of yearning, emotion, and the feeling of connectivity and identity with India.
India and Fiji share close, friendly and long-standing relations with a strong element of development partnership. There are strong cultural links between the two countries, as 38% of Fiji's population is of Indian descent. Last year, Fiji conferred Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with its highest honour.
Dubai is primed to serve as the venue for the forthcoming 11th World Government Summit, scheduled from 12th till 14th of February. The summit's overarching theme, Shaping the Governments of the Future, underscores its forward-looking agenda. Notably, India, Turkey and Qatar have been designated as esteemed guests of honor for the 2024 edition. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is slated to deliver a keynote address during the summit proceedings on February 14th. The 51st edition of the New Delhi World Book Fair will begin today, featuring over 2,000 stalls with books in multiple languages. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan will inaugurate the week-long fair at Bharat Mandapam. The fair will also mark the inauguration of a national e-library where books can be accessed and downloaded for free. Besides books covering a wide variety of genres, Braille books will also be available for free of cost for visually impaired children. The guest country for the book fair this year is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The theme of this year's fair is Multilingual India, a living tradition. Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. The Indian Parliament passed the bill to provide reservation to the other backward classes in the local body elections in India's Jammu and Kashmir. The bill is aimed at providing justice to the people from other backward classes of Jammu and Kashmir by providing them the reservation rights in local level elections. In India, nearly 970 million voters are going to vote in the upcoming general elections. According to the Election Commission, nearly 970 million electors have registered across the country. The Commission termed it as the world's largest electorate registration. It also said that a 6% increase has been seen in registered voters from 2019. India's Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary visited Military Institute of Technology in the western Indian city of Pune. He inaugurated the country's only armament technology lab and addressed all participants of the Defence Services Technical Staff Course. The Air Chief also spoke on transition of Indian Air Force into a contemporary and future-ready aerospace force. The joint military exercise, Sada Tanseek, between Indian Army and Saudi Arabia concluded at Mahajan Field Firing Range in the Indian state of Rajasthan. The exercise facilitated synergy in the conduct of joint tactical operations and strengthened the interoperability between the two armed forces. The Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve in India's Assam has witnessed an all-time high tourist footfall. According to the park authorities, nearly 180,000 visitors, including both foreign and domestic, have already visited the national park so far after it was opened in October last year. The river tourism of the park and new tourism areas like Biswanath and Bura Chapori are catching the attraction of the tourists. A quick break ahead, but after the break, road blockades and protests by farmers continue across Europe. In football, AFC Asian Cup is set to conclude with an all-Arab final. Hosts Qatar look to defend their title against giant killers Jordan. In a remarkable display of grit, Amit Panghal and national champion Sachin storm into the semi-finals of the 75th Stranger Memorial Tournament in Sofia.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. Applauding India's growth, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that every development expert group in the world is discussing India's transformation journey in the last 10 years. He was addressing the 8th edition of Global Business Summit 2024 held in New Delhi on Friday. The summit saw the themes on disruption, development and diversification. Take a look.
The Times Global Business Summit aimed to address major issues like world politics, economy, and diplomacy. While addressing the largest business conference in Asia, PM Modi declared it as India's moment, comparing Davos to a business-oriented Kumbh Mela and stressed on the growing trust towards India in the world.
इस बार समिट की जो थीम रखी है, मैं समझता हूं वो थीम इटसेल्फ बहुत अहम है। डिसरप्शन, डेवलपमेंट और डाइवर्सिफिकेशन। आज के इस दौर में ये बहुत ही चर्चित शब्द है और डिसरप्शन, डेवलपमेंट एंड डाइवर्सिफिकेशन की इस चर्चा में कोई इस बात पर सहमत है कि भारत का समय है। This is India's time.
Focusing on India's developmental journey, PM Modi also said that there comes a time when all the circumstances are in the favor of the country. He said that it is during this time when the country makes itself strong for centuries to come.
ये टाइम पीरियड, ये कालखंड वाकई अभूतपूर्व है। एक प्रकार से वर्चुअस साइकिल शुरू हुई है। ये वो समय है जब हमारी ग्रोथ रेट लगातार बढ़ रही है और हमारा फिस्कल डेफिसिट घट रहा है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted that India is on the path to becoming the third largest economy in the world. He also expressed confidence that the present government's third term will witness huge decisions and preparations are already underway for new schemes to eliminate poverty while giving a new impetus to India's development.
हमारे तीसरे टर्म में देश इकोनॉमी में दुनिया में नंबर 3 तक पहुंच जाएगा। तीसरे टर्म में और भी बड़े फैसले होने जा रहे हैं। भारत की गरीबी दूर करने, भारत के विकास को नई गति देने के लिए हमने नई योजनाओं की तैयारी पिछले 1.5 साल से मैं कर रहा हूं और बहुत एक दिशा में कैसे काम करूंगा, कहां ले जाऊंगा, इसका पूरा रोड मैप मैं बना रहा हूं।
Praising India's governance model, Prime Minister also said that it is moving forward on 2 streams simultaneously. He emphasized that on one hand, the challenges of the 20th century are being addressed, while on the other hand, the government is striving to fulfill the aspirations of the 21st century.
World cocoa prices hit new records for the 9th straight day on Friday. Bad weather in West Africa is being blamed for damaging crop yields, which is pushing cocoa prices higher. Besides, diseases currently impacting cacao trees in top-producing region West Africa are also worse than they have been in recent years, and that there isn't treatment other than cutting trees out and replanting. Meanwhile, traders continue to scramble for supplies, predicting ever wider deficits this season and with concerns growing for the next. The price surge is also expected to bite further into the pockets of chocolate consumers, as chocolate makers have mostly run down their stock of cheap beans. Chocolate major Hershey's grapples with rising cocoa costs, leading to higher chocolate prices and potential impact on 2024 profit growth. Europe's farmers continue to express their dissatisfaction through protests, blocking roads, using tractors and tires to make their voices heard. DD India's Pablo Gutierrez reports from Budapest.
European farmers are upset about a series of issues. Many of their grievances revolve around the European Union's Green Deal, which aims for climate neutrality by 2050, Farmers argue that their profits aren't sufficient to invest in sustainable agriculture and are demanding more assistance from the EU, despite the bloc already allocating around $300 billion in aid over the next 3 years. They are also angry at rising expenses caused by inflation, which has led to higher costs for essentials like grain and diesel. In addition, they are protesting against the EU's free trade agreements with other countries, fearing that these deals will enable foreign farmers to undercut their prices. Here in Hungary, farmers have been demonstrating against the European Union opening up its market to agricultural imports from the Ukraine, which they say are undercutting their products. In addition to demonstrations in city centers like Barcelona and Paris, farmers have blocked major roads with tractors and their tires and have even resorted to burning bales and spraying liquid manure at government buildings. Protesters are marching with banners declaring no farmers, no food, and emphasizing their opposition to the EU's agricultural and climate policies. Pablo Gutierrez in Budapest reporting for DD India.
Let's get you updates from the world of sports now. Jordan will lock horns with defending champion Qatar in the final of the AFC Asian Cup, which will take place at the Lusail Stadium in Qatar. Surprise package Jordan finished third in their group and scraped through to the knockout stage, where they suddenly elevated their game to beat heavyweights Iraq and South Korea. Qatar turned things around in the Asian Cup, scoring in every game en route to the final, including a thrilling 3-2 semi-final win over higher-ranked Iran. While Jordan will play with nothing to lose in their first final, hosts Qatar are the defending champions after winning their maiden title in 2019. India's top-ranked tennis player Sumit Nagal will face third seed Dalibor Srivsena of Czech in the semi-final of Chennai Open on Saturday. Earlier, Nagal defeated unseeded Dominic Palin of Czech Republic 6-3, 6-3 in the quarterfinal match. The 26-year-old Indian displayed a mature performance against his opponent to record his third straight set win. Nagal, who was at 110 in the live rankings, needs to win the tournament to become the first Indian man since Prajnesh Gunneswaran in 2019 to make his top 100 debut. In doubles, Saket Maineni Ramkumar Ramanathan pair will take on Ritvik Chaudhary Bolipali, Nikki Kalyanda Punacha Do in an all-Indian final. Commonwealth Games gold medalist Amit Panghal and national champion Sachin entered the semi-finals of the 75th Strandja Memorial Tournament in Sofia in Bulgaria. Amit continued his fine form to grab a 5-0 unanimous decision win over Aldakishig Batulga of Mongolia in the 51 kg category. Amit was so dominant in the bout that he won each round with a 5-0 verdict en route, making his way into the semi-finals on Saturday. Sachin was equally dominating against Kapanadze Georgi of Georgia in the 57 kg category. Sachin won the first round 4-1 and took the game heads-on in the second one, using his counter-attacking game to strike some effective left hooks. The World Cricket Committee has recommended that men's test series be played across a minimum of 3 matches from 2028 onwards. The committee ruled the lack of a series decider in the drawn series between Australia and West Indies following the visitors' stunning win at the Gabba. India and South Africa also drew a fiercely contested 2-match series in December. It called for new growth markets for the game and backed the ICC's decision to stage the men's T20 World Cup in USA and West Indies. It also called for distribution from media rights deal in the next cycle to be more equitable, thus reducing the financial gap between the members. The World Cricket Committee met in Cape Town last week. It is headed by former Sri Lanka captain Kumar Sangakkara. Veteran designer Tadashi Shoji nodded to the natural world in his latest collection at the New York Fashion Week, presenting an array of cocktail dresses and evening gowns. Many dresses bore leaf or floral embroidery adorned with large floral decorations. All right, with that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Is telepathy real?